I like it. I like the adventure. Um, this book was written in, I don't know. It is a science fiction book about the colonization of Mars, and we will be finishing chapter 1 today. I read half of it last week, detailing the first Mars colonists from the perspective of a couple of them, or one of them, named Frank Chalmers. Chalmers. And exclamation Mars for last week. For last week's reading, if you want to watch the VOD. Part 1 is titled Festival Night. And we start by listening to a speech, a very moving speech about like going to Mars and how it changed us all as like we're fundamentally different beings because we've traveled to Mars and nobody can stop us now because we're Martians. And that speech was given by John Boone, the first man on Mars. He's kind of like Neil Armstrong, and Frank Chalmers is his Buzz Aldrin. But only if Buzz Aldrin was really jealous of John for being blonde. So anyways, Frank, he's our main character. He's telling us about the world. He's like, yeah, John's up there like lying to people. We're the same humans we've always been. And then Frank goes around and he's like, oh, hi, John. Bye, John. And then he goes and he hangs out with the Arab community on Mars. There's some Saudi oil princes, you know. And he goes and hangs out with them. He has some good coffee. And he likes to tell him what John's doing. You know, he's like, you know, John, I don't think he likes you. And that's basically where we left off. And fuck, it is hot in here. I turned the heat up because I thought I'd be cold, and I'm sweating. Does anyone else, or is it just me, do you, like, fucking walk around all day adjusting your thermostat by 1 degree? Like, you're like, if you go more than 1 degree, it's, like, too much, you know? It's either like, I'm not paying for this, or this is too cold. Just, like, 1 degree, and it's, like, never fucking right. God, I hate it. I'm like, surely this will make the difference. Sounds like you need warmer socks, yeah. Or more hats. We need more helmet hair on this stream, said nobody. I used to, but now I just leave it. If I get hot, I turn a fan on. That's too extravagant for me. If you get hot, you turn a fan on? Like, I'm talking about heating here. You know you can turn it down. And then in 1 hour, you can turn it up again because you're cold. And my whole house has, like, poor circulation, so that makes it, like, 20 times worse, I swear. I go upstairs, and it's a fucking refrigerator. And I'm down here, and it's an oven. And I'm like, God damn it, this is just a waste of energy. I have something in my eye. Now is not the time. Fuck you, Comcast. Yeah, okay, I gotta go. I gotta go. I'm so sorry. We only have like 10 pages to read tonight, so it should go by pretty. Like, I won't keep you up too late, I promise. If you gotta go to work in the morning. So it crows. Let us begin. Caw. So it crows. Caw. That's my recap for the year. That's my favorite thing that happened this year. Caw. Whoop. I swear to God, this book is so old. It's gonna rip in half while I'm reading it on stream. I need to buy another copy so I don't ruin this one. Ahem. I didn't have a bookmark. All right, I'll start a few paragraphs before we ended last week. Get us back into the flow. Read lots of books in prison. That is good advice. I'm a bit daunted. I find this daunting. This is the thickest book I've read on stream so far. If we finish it, it is literally, it's the biggest undertaking so far. I'm sorry for the mispronunciation of names that is about to happen. How did you like the speeches? He asked, looking into the black mud at the bottom of his demitasse. How did you like the speeches? John Boone is the same as ever. Old Zeke replied, John Boone is the same as ever. The others laughed angrily. When he says he will make an indigenous Martian culture, he only means some of the Terran cultures here will be promoted and others attacked. Those perceived as regressive will be singled out for destruction. It's a form of Ataturkism. Ataturkism. He thinks everyone on Mars should become American, said a man named Najim or Nem. I'm just going to go with the first pronunciation I pick. He thinks everyone on Mars should become American, said a man named Najim. Why not? Zake said, smiling. It's already happened on Earth. No, Frank said. You shouldn't misunderstand Boone. People say he's self-absorbed, but he is self-absorbed, Nem replied. Neve? I don't know. I can't even stick with the pronunciation that I choose. He is self-absorbed, Nem replied. He lives in a hall of mirrors. He thinks that we have come to Mars to establish a good old American superculture, and that everyone will agree to it because it is the John Boone plan. Zake said, he doesn't understand that other people have other opinions. It's not that, Frank said. It's just that he knows they don't make as much sense as his. They laughed at that. But the younger men's hoots had a bitter edge. They all believed that before their arrival, Boone had argued in secret against UN approval for Arab settlements. Frank encouraged this belief, which was almost true. John disliked any ideology that might get in his way. He wanted the slate as blank as possible in everybody who came up. The Arabs, however, believed that John disliked them in particular. Young Salim El-Hayil opened his mouth to speak, and Frank gave him a swift warning glance. Salim froze, then pursed his mouth angrily. Frank said, well, he's not as bad as all that. Although, to tell the truth, I've heard him say it would be better if Americans and Russians had been able to claim the planet when they arrived, like explorers in the old days. Their laughter was brief and grim. Salim's shoulders hunched, as if struck. Frank shrugged and smiled, spread his hands wide. But it's pointless. I mean, what can he do? Old Zake lifted his eyebrows. Opinions vary. Chalmers got up to move on. Meeting for one instant, Salim's insistent gaze. Then he strode down a side street, one of the narrow lanes that connected the city's 7 main boulevards. Most were paved with cobblestones or street grass, but this one was rough blonde concrete. He slowed by a recessed doorway, looking in the window of a closed boot manufactory. His faint reflection appeared in a pair of bulky walker boots. Opinions vary. Yes, a lot of people had underestimated John Boone. Chalmers had done it himself many times. An image came to him of John in the White House, pink with conviction, his disobedient blonde hair flying wildly, the sun streaming in the Oval Office windows and illuminating him as he waved his hands and paced the room, talking away while the president nodded and his aides watched, pondering how best to co-opt that electrifying charisma. Oh, they had been hot in those days, Chalmers and Boone. Frank with his ideas and John the front man, with a momentum that was practically unstoppable. It would be a matter of derailment, really. Salim El-Hail's reflection appeared among the boots. "Is it true?" he demanded. "Is what true?" said Frank crossly. "Is Boone anti-Arab? What do you think? Was he the one who blocked permission to build the mosque on Phobos? He's a powerful man." The young Saudi's face twisted. "The most powerful man on Mars, and he only wants more. He wants to be king." Salim made a fist and struck his other hand. He was slimmer than the other Arabs, weak-chinned, his mustache covering a small mouth. "The treaty comes up for renewal," Frank said, "and Boone's coalition is bypassing me." He ground his teeth. "I don't know what their plans are, but I'm going to find out tonight." "You can imagine what they'll be, anyway. Western biases, surely." "He may withhold his approval of a new treaty unless it contains guarantees that all settlements will be made only by the original treaty settlers, or treaty signatories." Salim shivered, and Frank pressed. "It's what he wants, and it's very possible he could get it, because his new coalition makes him more powerful than ever. It could mean an end to settlement by non-signatories. You'll become guest scientists or get sent back." In the window, the reflection of Salim's face appeared as a kind of mask, signifying rage. "Batal, Batal," he was muttering. "Very bad, very bad." His hands twisted as if out of his control, and he muttered about the Koran or Camus, Persepolis or the Peacock Throne. References scattered nervously among non-sequiturs, babbling. "Talk means nothing," Chalmers said harshly. "When it comes down to it, nothing matters but action." That gave the young Arab pause. "I can't be sure," he said at last. Frank poked him in the arm, watched a shock run through the man. "It's your people we're talking about. It's this planet we're talking about." Salim's mouth disappeared under his mustache. After a time, he said, "It's true." Frank said nothing. They looked in the window together, as if judging boots. Finally, Frank raised a hand. "I'll talk to Boone again," he said quietly. Shh. Shh. "Tonight. He leaves tomorrow. I'll try to talk to him, to reason with him. I doubt it will matter. It never has before. But I'll try. Afterwards, we should meet. Yes. In the park, then. The southernmost part. Around 11. Salim nodded. Chalmers transfixed him with a stare. Talk means nothing, he said brusquely, and walked away. And that's where we ended last week. Talk means nothing, Moose. Talk means nothing. The next boulevard, Chalmers came to, was crowded with people clumped outside open front bars, or kiosks selling couscous and bratwurst. Arab and Swiss. It seemed an odd combination, but they meshed well. Tonight, some of the Swiss were distributing face masks from the door of an apartment. Apparently, they were celebrating this Stadtfest as a kind of Mardi Gras, Fasnacht, as they called it, with masks and music and every manner of social inversion, just as it was back home on those wild February nights in Basel and Zurich and Luzern. On an impulse, Frank joined the line. Around every profound spirit, a mask is always growing, he said to the two women in line in front of him. They nodded politely and then resumed conversation in guttural Schweizerdeutsch, a dialect never written down. A private code. Incomprehensible, even to Germans. It was another impenetrable culture, the Swiss. In some ways, even more so than the Arabs. That was it, Frank thought. They worked well together because they were both so insular that they never made any real contact. He laughed out loud as he took a mask. A black face, studded with red paste gems. He put it on. A line of masked celebrants snaked down the boulevard, drunk, loose, at the edge of control. At an intersection, the boulevard opened up into a small plaza, where a fountain shot sun-colored water into the air. Around the fountain, a steel drum band hammered out a calypso tune. People gathered around, dancing or hopping in time to the low bong of the bass drum. 100 meters overhead, a vent in the tent frame poured frigid air down onto the plaza. Air so cold that little flakes of snow floated in it, glinting in the light like chips of mica. Then fireworks banged, just under the tenting, and colored sparks fell through the snowflakes. Merry Christmas. Sunset, more than any other time of day, made it clear they stood on an alien planet. Something in the slant and redness of the light was fundamentally wrong. upsetting expectations wired into the savannah brain over millions of years. This evening was providing a particularly garish and unsettling example of the phenomenon. Frank wandered in its light, making his way back to the city wall. The plain south of the city was littered with rocks, each one dogged by a long black shadow. Under the concrete arch of the city's south gate, he stopped. No one there. The gates were locked during festivals like these, to keep drunks from going out and getting hurt. But Frank had gotten the day's emergency code out of the fire department. AI that morning. And when he was sure no one was watching, he tapped out the code and hurried into the lock. He put on a walker, boots, and helmet, and went outside through the middle and outer doors. Outside, it was intensely cold, as always, and the diamond pattern of the walker's heating element burned through his clothes. He crunched over concrete and then Duracrust. Loose sand flowed east, pushed by the wind. Grimly, he looked around. Rocks everywhere. A planet sledgehammered billions of times, and meteors still falling. Someday, one of the towns would take a hit. He turned and looked back. It looked like an aquarium glowing in the dusk. There would be no warning, but everything would suddenly fly apart. Walls, vehicles, trees, bodies. The Aztecs had believed the world would end in one of 4 ways: earthquake, fire, flood, or jaguars falling from the sky. Here, there would be no fire, nor earthquake, nor flood, now that he thought of it, leaving only the jaguars. The twilight sky was a dark pink over Pavonis Mons. To the east stretched Nicosia's farms. Farm, a long, low greenhouse running downslope from the city. From this angle, one could see the farm was larger than the town proper and jammed with green crops. Frank clumped to one of its outer locks and entered. The world ends because it's raining pussy. I volunteer as tribute. Inside the farm, it was hot. Inside the farm, it was hot. A full 60 degrees warmer than outside, and 15 degrees warmer than the city. He had to keep his helmet on, as the farm air was tailored to the plants, heavy on CO2 and short on oxygen. He stopped at a workstation and fingered through drawers of small tools and pesticide patches, gloves, and bags. He selected 3 tiny patches and put them in a plastic bag, then slipped the bag gently into the walker's pocket. The patches were clever pesticides, biosaboteurs designed to provide plants with systemic defenses. He had been reading about them and knew of a combination that in animals would be deadly to the organism. He put a pair of shears in the walker's other pocket. Narrow gravel paths led him up between long beds of barley and wheat, back toward the city proper. He went in the lock leading into town, unclipped his helmet, stripped off the walker and boots, transferred the contents of the walker's pockets to his coat. Then he went back to the lower end of town. And I have to pee again. I will be right back.